CA just dropped a blog about Immortal Empires. Let's have a look. Rolling past the first bit of fluff, we notice one important line here. We're aiming to roll out the beta version of the game mode this August, so not too long to wait, just a couple of months. And here's a bunch of info about it. Access to 86 legendary lords, well, we kind of assumed that anyway. Be'lakor is now a legendary lord with its own faction. This is pretty cool. Be'lakor was kind of treated as a little bit underwhelming with the fact that you either got to just destroy him or make him into a pet. Didn't really seem to do him justice, so cool that he's getting his own legendary lord campaign. And then we have dedicated factions for a number of older legendary lords, including Grombrindal, Helmengorst, and Volkmar the Grim. So what this means is that every individual legendary lord will now have their own faction, instead of like before, where Volkmar, for example, was just part of the Empire under Karl Franz, rather than having his own faction in the same way that Balthazar Gelt gets the Golden Order. Well, now Volkmar is going to get his own faction, his own start position, his own mechanics, as well as those other lords as well. So that's really nice, gives us a few extra new campaigns to play, even though they're technically old campaigns. And then we have new starting locations for 29 of the older legendary lords. Again, very nice. We're going to get some old content that kind of becomes new again. Who's going to move and where they're going to go remains to be seen though, so we'll have to see. Next, we have improved personal faction mechanics for a selection of the older legendary lords, such as Volkmar the Grim. So this sounds like those legendary lords that do get their own factions now will get their own mechanics as well. So Volkmar likely won't be rocking the old Elector Count system because Summon the Elector Counts is Karl's line and Volkmar can't steal that, so he needs his own line. He's probably going to get his own mechanics and maybe a swanky start position as well. Maybe he's one of the ones that's moved. But again, a nice little touch that just jazzes up some of the older content. Now to something completely new, the Sea Lanes feature, which allows you to move armies between distant lands and continents from one side of the map to the other without leapfrogging them all the way across the map. So we're going to have certain points in the ocean which we can go to, and they'll teleport us to another far away part of the map basically. Kind of like the rifts in the Chaos Realms campaign. And I think that's really nice. That's a really good thing. It gives people the option. You don't have to use it. You can just stay around where you start if you want to. But if you fancy venturing off and trying to conquer Norska or Ulthuan or the jungles, you can, even if those parts of the map are on the other side of the world. This just gives us a bit more sandbox freedom to go wherever we want and create whatever story we want, fight whatever factions we want to fight. So this, I think, is a positive addition to the game. Another new thing, dynamic endgame scenarios. Randomized mid to late game challenges we're introducing to challenge the late game steamroll, where the player is so powerful that there's little to no challenge left and less of a reason to finish the campaign. Think greenskin invasions or resurgences of the undead as a few examples. This to me I think sounds pretty fun. The idea of something that'll give us a bit of a challenge in the late game when we are super powerful, we can put all our military might and power to some kind of use. So maybe some kind of like chaos invasion type things, but maybe that'll become annoying as the chaos invasion kind of did. So hopefully it'll be an optional thing maybe, or it'll be like on, off, and then there'll be a difficulty of it. So if you're going to get invaded by greenskins, it could be 5 stacks or it could be 20 stacks, depending on which option you choose. At least that's how I hope it is. That's just me guessing, but this sounds like a cool feature and something to jazz up the late game. I'm on board with it. Next to something I've moaned about for a while, revamped victory conditions. Most players don't end up finishing campaigns, no shit Sherlock, and we want to give them better reasons and a greater level of satisfaction for doing so. As such, we've simplified the victory requirements into more meaningful objectives, while avoiding any arbitrary playstyle requirements. This sounds good and is pretty much going to be the victory overhaul mod by the sounds of it, which generally has simplified victory conditions and a whole bunch of different ways you can choose to win the campaign. Overall, I hope they add in some shorter victory objectives, ones that don't require you to play for 200 or 300 turns. Something that aims for maybe like 100 or 150 turns to complete the campaign would be a good option for those who don't like to spend hours and hours and hours in the same campaign. They like to play all different ones. So yes, excited to see what they do with that exactly. Moving on, we get corruption rework. Players will have new tools for spreading or reducing corruption through more active usage of their armies. Small amounts of natural reduction will also be available to uncorrupted factions. So that's cool, I guess. Exactly what this rework is going to be, we'll have to see, and what tools we have to mess around with it, we will also have to see. For me, I can't say I had a great deal of trouble spreading corruption, so I'm not really sure what this is trying to address, but I guess some people have had some problems with it. And lastly, a point on multiplayer campaigns. It says only the host of Immortal Empires multiplayer campaigns needs to own all 3 games. So needs to own. If you only own Warhammer 3, you won't be able to host an Immortal Empires multiplayer campaign, by the sounds of it. So you need a host with all 3 games, and then anybody else, even if they only own the 3rd game, will be able to join and play, but will only be able to play the legendary lords they have from that game. So fairly self-explanatory, not a lot to say on that. And that is most of the exciting stuff from this blog. The rest of it is on why they're calling it a beta, where they explain the challenges and the process of putting it all together. You can read that, pause this video if you wish, or just go and read the actual blog from Total War's Twitter or Discord, whatever. For the most part though, I think having a beta for Immortal Empires is a good idea, because this mode of Immortal Empires is it. This is the end game. This is the final piece of the puzzle to Total War Warhammer. There is no Total War Warhammer 4, in theory. Who knows? But this is the end game. This is the last part. So we want to get it right, right? They want to get it right. We want them to get it right. So why not have a beta? Let us as the players give the feedback. Let them build it to how we like it, so it can go strong for the next 5 or 10 years. Of course, over the next, I imagine, 3 to 5 years, we're going to get a whole bunch of DLC for the game, which is going to keep it going, at least until Total War Lord of the Rings. Yes, come on. Make it happen, CA. Make it happen. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Not long to wait now, lads. We're nearly there. See you in the future.